Coming to you live from downtown Windsor, this is a St. Clair College MediaPlex production.
Hello everybody and welcome to MediaPlex News. I'm Luna Nujro. Asian Square is a part of town. Many don't know anything about it. So we sent Bosco Want out to find out.
Tucked away in Windsor is a hidden gem that brings a little piece of Asia to our community. Welcome to Asian Square, a local shop filled with antiques, lucky charms, and traditional treasures. Inside, you'll find lines of shelves filled with Chinese god statues, altar essentials, and good luck charms, each one carrying a meaning of hope, fortune, or protection. They also carry traditional Chinese clothing, wedding essentials, fabrics, and hand-painted scarves, all rich in culture and artistry. And for anyone who loves a bit of nostalgia, there are toys like yo-yos, vintage birthday cards, lanterns, and decorative vases that make you feel right at home. Every visit feels personal. The owner takes time to share stories between each item and help people find something special. Since the shop isn't open for any walk-ins, you need to book an appointment beforehand. So whether you're searching for a gift, something cultural, just a peace of mind, Asian Square is worth discovering. I'm Bosco Wang, reporting from the MediaPlex.
Thank you, Bosco, for this amazing report. If you like the outdoors like me and some adventure, let's check out with Runaway Farm.
This weekend at Runaway Farms in Amherstburg, people got to unwind in the most peaceful and adorable way possible at sunset yoga with goats and sheep. Everyone showed up with their mats and blankets ready to stretch and relax as the sun went down over the farm. The animals wandered around, making everyone laugh and smile. It added such a fun, lighthearted energy to the class. As the evening got cooler, the group cozied up around a warm fire, enjoying fire-popped popcorn, vegan marshmallows, and Beavertail minis. Thanks to Beavertail Amherstburg for sponsoring this event. It was the perfect way to end the night, good food, good company, and a great cause. Events like this really bring the community together while helping support the animals that call Runaway Farms home. And if you missed this one, don't worry, they've got another event coming soon. So keep an eye out for your next chance to stretch, snack, and spend time with some adorable farm animals under the sunset. For the MediaPlex Insider, I'm JC Zimmer.
Thank you, Jesse. It sure has been cold lately. Let's head over to Zach, and where he is standing by with 3 days forecast. Hi, Zach.
Hey, Luna. No kidding. I had to break out my coat, my hat, my gloves, all earlier than I would have liked. I'm sure many of you at home did as well. Let's take a look at what's going on. Take a look at the county. Right now, currently in Windsor, it is 0 degrees in Windsor, so goose eggs there as well as Amherstburg. But as you head over towards the interior part of the county, Essex, 1 degrees there, and pretty much anywhere between 2 and -1 degrees. Let's take a look at that 3-day forecast that we got. And really, we have a warm-up, actually. We do have some warm air coming in for the weekend, so how about that? And all good things must come to an end because it will cool off as we get into the middle part or an early part of next week. And actually, it was about 50 years ago this week that the Edmund Fitzgerald sank in Lake Superior on November 10th, 1975 during a storm. And at the time, waves were recorded up to about 30 feet or more. And I gotta say, Luna, not looking for any waves up to 30 feet, but a nice mild stretch coming for the weekend. Back to you.
As we should all be aware, today it's Remembrance Day. Haley looks at what this means. Let's watch.
Do we not owe it to ourselves, to our children, to tormented mankind, to make sure that these catastrophes do not engulf us for the 3rd time?
In 1940, Winston Churchill stood in front of his people for the first time as Prime Minister of Britain and said the following words that strengthened the spirited soldiers to the victory of the Second World War. If you're going through hell, keep going. Nearly 74 years later, the game has not changed, just the players. September 11, 2001 was the beginning of a new conflict, when the World Trade Center collapsed after a terrorist attack. The need for justice was declared just a few days after by the President of the United States.
It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated.
This ongoing 12-year conflict in Afghanistan has been the first war since Korea to directly affect Windsor, all because of one man. To his peers, he was the life of the party. To his family, he was the light in the room. To his brothers in arms, he was a hard-working soldier. And to Windsorites, Corporal Andrew Paul Grennan was one of 158 Canadians to have given the ultimate sacrifice in Afghanistan, the only one being from Windsor, Ontario.
He didn't talk about joining the Army or anything until he was about 12, 13, 14. He mentioned it a few times. When he was 17, after going through some rough times, we had the occasion to be in a van together, just the two of us, for about 4 hours for a car ride. And at that point, he had already been down to the recruiting office. So we talked about that, and I said, Andrew, why do you want to join the military? And he said, Mom, I know that I need discipline and I need structure for me to be successful, and I know that I will not do it on my own. The military will do that for me.
Grennan joined the military for the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry stationed in Shiloh, Manitoba. He trained hard and dedicated his life to his regiment.
It's infantry training. It's probably the most difficult training that you get in the Canadian Armed Forces. We all go through basic training, but the infantry has particularly difficult and hard training because, of course, we're ground soldiers. And we carry everything on our back. We're fighting soldiers. A lot of people like to use the term that Canadians are peacemakers, peacekeepers, and that is true. We're very well employed in those areas, but the reality is, to be an effective peacemaker, you have to be an effective soldier. So it is very demanding training, and Andrew would have been trained extremely well. He not only successfully met that challenge, but he was very well known in the Patricias, a very, very good soldier.
Then in 2006, Grennan boarded a plane for Kandahar, Afghanistan. His last words before his first tour were to CBC News.
This media people came around and asked if anybody wanted to speak. All his comrades said, no, but Grennan over there, he'll talk to you. He'll talk to you. He'll talk to you. So he did. He was very comfortable. And they asked him, what are your feelings? Do you mind going? Da, 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 da. And he said, we've been training for months on end. We've gone through every possible training exercise you can imagine. You can only train so much. It's kickoff time, baby. Let's start this game.
Halfway through his first tour in 2006, Grennan wrote a poem called Why We Fight. His poem has since been sent around the world and reposted all over the internet. Within the poem, Andrew explains his questions of war and his reason for fighting.
I've often asked myself why we are here, why my government actually agreed to send troops to this God-forsaken place. There are no natural resources, no oil, gold, or silver, just people. People who have been at war
for the last 40-plus years. People who want nothing more than their children to be safe. People who will do anything for money, even give their own life. I look into the eyes of these people and I see hate, destruction, and depression. I see love, warmth, kindness, and appreciation. Why do we fight? For in this country there are monsters. Monsters we could easily fight on a different battlefield at a different time. Monsters that could easily take the fight to us. Surrounding these mud walls and huts is a country in turmoil, a country that is unable to rebuild itself.
A country that cannot guarantee a bright future for its youth. Why do we fight? Because if we don't fight today on this battlefield, then our children will be forced to face these monsters on our own battlefield. I fight because I'm a soldier. I fight because I'm ordered. I fight so my children won't have to.
During his 6-month tour in Kandahar, Andrew kept his family and his friends back home updated on his life through phone calls and a Facebook page. His pictures online show the challenges, camaraderie, danger, and bravery he experienced in his time there. He came home on Valentine's Day of 2007 with 2 injuries he sustained in combat.
Andrew hit his head and he hit his knee against some of the machinery. So his knee was buggered up a little bit, and the other injury left him with hearing loss, a little bit of hearing loss. A bomb exploded not that far from him. When the troops started to walk in, they did it with protocol, like they had 2 come in at a time so that everybody could applaud, and that so those 2 families could have their own time rather than everybody coming in at once. Okay, so I mean, they were close to the end. So we were anxious, we were antsy, we were getting tired of waiting. But when we saw them, I mean, you lose all that. You lose all that. And to see their faces and the looks on their faces was phenomenal. I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
After his homecoming, Andrew began physical therapy for his knee and shoulder, hoping for a speedy recovery. As his comrades signed up to return to combat in Afghanistan, Grennan continued to hope and work harder towards recovery until the day he was granted the medical okay to return with his comrades. Andrew's second tour in Afghanistan was to be finished roughly around September 15, 2008, but September 3, 2008, Private Chadwick James Horn, Corporal Michael James Segay, and Corporal Andrew Paul Grennan were killed in combat during an insurgent attack.
Throughout both tours, I kept wondering how I would find out if something happened to Andrew. There were so many incidents, fatal incidents, both tours. When we'd talk, you know, if they would be mentioned, he'd say, "Mom," he said, "you have to know," he said, "if you hear it on the news and you haven't heard anything else, you know it's not me, because it won't get on the news before you hear." On the morning of September the 3rd, it was a Wednesday, and it was the day after Labor Day. All of a sudden, and it's like, I mean, I know now, I wasn't aware at the time, I hear a loud knock. And I opened the door, and there were 2 gentlemen standing at the door, and they were from the Essex and Kent Scottish. Of course, as soon as I opened the door, one of the gentlemen says, "Are you Mrs. Teresa Charbonneau?" And I said, "Yes." And as I saying yes to this gentleman, I looked over at the next gentleman, and I saw the cross on his lapel. And I knew.
You can well imagine the shock when you go to see somebody like Teresa, and you arrive with your uniform, with your medals on, and a padre. And most of the families, the loved ones, are briefed prior to their sons or daughters, husbands, uncles, whatever it may be, going overseas, that if somebody arrives at the door dressed like that, it's not good news. So you can well imagine the shock, the dismay, the horror. There are times I've stood at the door for 10 minutes to a half an hour. They don't want to let you in. Letting you in means they have to accept the news. There's many different types of reaction.
As soon as I had said yes, I said no, and I started to close the door. Well, they didn't allow me to close the door. They stepped in, and the gentleman who asked me if I was Mrs. Teresa Charbonneau, he said, "I'm sorry to tell you that Andrew has been killed in Afghanistan this morning."
Since her oldest son's death, Teresa has used her grief to help other families of Canadian soldiers who have lost their loved ones overseas, all through a private group called Helping Others by Providing Empathy, or HOPE.
I like to make sure that I talk to people who will learn from my experience in two ways. My goal, what I've made my goal, is to make sure that the children in today's schools are taught about what they owe our veterans. As well, I tried to use my grief experience to help other people through their grief experience.
Before Andrew's death, Teresa admitted she lacked confidence in front of other people. But after doing numerous speeches in front of her community at memorials and Remembrance Day, Teresa said her confidence has strengthened through Andrew's memory.
Other than him dying, I wouldn't change anything about his life. He wasn't an angel. He wasn't an academic scholar. He was a normal boy who grew up to be a fine young man. Andrew Grennan was my son.
Thank you, Hallie, for all important details for this report. We never know what knows, and we'll see, me and you, with Zach. What do you know?
If you look around Windsor South Walkerville neighborhood, you'll notice streets with little poppy symbols right next to them. This goes back to 2005 when the city added a red poppy emblem to the street signs to make this connection more visible and serve as a constant reminder of the sacrifices made by our veterans. Streets like Vimy, Somme, and Ypres are just a few examples of this initiative. The signs serve as a daily reminder of the history behind the street names and the sacrifices of Canadian soldiers, especially in the South Walkerville area. There is ensuing controversy over some streets that do not have the poppy emblem, such as Turner and Byng. Local history buff Michael Gladstone White said he doubts that most Windsorites are even aware that Turner and Byng roads carry any First World War significance at all. The more you know. For Zach Attack Productions and the MediaPlex, I'm Zachary Ballog.
If you are hungry,
Windsor, this is...
If you are hungry, guys, you have to see this video. Let's see me and you. Tony loves cooking and talking to us about it. So let's watch what he has for us today.
Oh my, oh me, oh my. Who wants some spaghetti? Pasta, made simple. I've owned this cookbook for about 4 years now, and I've never actually made a recipe from it. Until recently. Just last week, I made a seafood recipe from this book, and let me tell you, it did not disappoint. Today, I'd like to take a look at another side of this wonderful pasta book. White bean soup. It's a pretty basic title, but when I first read this recipe, it left me very intrigued. The bean broth idea sounds pretty interesting, especially mixed with pasta. I don't think I've ever really had anything like that. The closest is lentil soup, which if you haven't had lentil soup, whoa buddy, you're missing out. The choice of noodles is also a bit dodgy in my eyes. I've never really liked these noodles. I've had them in a couple things and they did nothing for me. But perhaps this is the soup these noodles were meant for all along. You know, they're soulmates. Put them together and, I'm already intrigued. Having the garlicky oil added at the end as well, I'm not gonna lie, that just sounds delicious. Like, I see no qualms with that. So, let's get these beans up and cooking. All right, this broth is ready. It's going pretty good. Broth is hot. Beans are cooking. Beans are softening. Look at these beans. They're ready to friggin' crumble before our very eyes. Only thing is, I kind of messed up. This is the first Tony flop of this recipe. I put too much broth in this soup, so I gotta let the broth cook off for a while. But it's gonna be good. May just take a little longer than 2 hours. In the meantime, while that broth is cooking, we got the pasta simmering on the back burner here. I find with soup, you can basically have pasta going whenever you want. You're going to be adding that pasta to the soup at the very end anyways, so might as well cook it while you're cooking the soup. I also have the garlic simmering out front here. I found from making butter chicken that the longer you let the garlic simmer within the olive oil, the more garlic flavor it lets out. Okay, 2 hours later, and this broth is looking a little more starchy because the beans. It's still very liquidy, but it's definitely thickened up a little bit. Let's blend this guy up now. Quick disclosure before we hop in, I have never used this little hand blender before. I'm a little scared to use it. Whenever I turn it on, it goes like... It sounds like it's screaming. I don't know if this thing is in pain, but I'm gonna feel a little in pain as I'm using this. Let's give it a shot. I need to put this blender away from my face as well. Let's blend this broth together. All right, moment of truth. I'm standing back for this one. Okay. Okay, I think that's blended. I really hope I didn't just scratch the out of my pan, all right? There's no better word for it. Let's peep this out. Last thing for the broth is just salt and pepper. I really hope I didn't mess this up. All right, so the broth is all ready. It's looking kind of foamy. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit scared to try this out. It is not nearly as thick as I expected it to be. I was kind of expecting like a hummus out of this because you're blending the beans with it. It's basically a thick chicken broth. It's probably got some beany taste to it, if I'd have to guess. I'm a little scared, I'm not gonna lie. Let's give this a shot and let's see if I messed it up or not. One more quick addition, I actually did not include all of the pasta noodles within the broth. As the recipe says, I just put whatever I was eating within the bowl here. I find with soups, if you're gonna be storing most of the soup later on like I am, it's better to pack the noodles and the broth separately so you don't risk melting the noodles within your broth. It's basically the easiest way to just screw up your soup, in my opinion. So don't do that. Do this. Yeah, not gonna lie, I'm actually really scared. This could be the most disgusting thing ever. All right. It's time. It's okay. The broth needs a little bit extra. It definitely could have used more beans. I definitely put too much broth to start with. I did let it cook off, but I also think that the amount of beans it called for was way too low. 1 can of beans to 6 cups of broth? Nah, that ain't it. I'm thinking probably 1 can to like 3 cups, potentially 2.5. I was expecting this to be thick. I was kind of expecting lentil soup. I was expecting some hummus of some sort. This wasn't it. It's basically chicken soup, a little bit starchy, not even that much starchy. I don't really taste the beans. I think that's the big issue with this. I don't taste the beans. The noodles actually ain't bad. I would say these are probably good noodles for soup. I learned that out of this recipe. The parsley did not add too much, and it's sad to say, but the garlicky oil, it didn't do it. It didn't really add much to it. It just sort of made it oily, which, I mean, I don't mind oil, so it's okay with me. On further examination, after finishing my bowl, it's okay. It's definitely okay. It's actually a very light soup, which I did not expect. It's almost got like Italian chicken soup vibes to it, but the beans do add a slight flavor to it, a lot slighter than I expected it to be. The garlic is actually a very good choice. It adds its own slight flavor to the whole meal, which it works, you know, it works with it. I feel like it's needing something else, but it's not bad. It's just not, it's not rocking my world, all right? So in the end, I would not say this soup failed the Tony test. I probably failed the Tony test by putting too much broth. So mark me down, Tony.
Tony, you did amazing food. You have to bring some tomorrow for the class, by the way. And then, thank you for watching MediaPlex News. I'm Luna Nudro. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
This has been a St. Clair College MediaPlex production.
I think it's so important to be taught by industry professionals because they know what they're doing. And they're not just teaching because they read it in a book somewhere. They're teaching because they've lived it. I choose to take control of my future, and my path is St. Clair College. I choose to be here.
I learn by doing. I learn by reacting to a situation. St. Clair puts me directly into my industry. I'm dealing with real patients, real life situations. It's not just theory. It's not book work anymore.
I choose to take control of my future, and my path is St. Clair College. I choose to be here.